nation. Now, I talked with a brother this week. We was talking. I asked him. I said, if the government came at you, and you had to tell the government one thing, or you had to write to the government, what was the rise and fall of the black man in his nation? He said drugs. So we get to investigating the matter, and we learned that in the mid 70s, there was a war on poverty. Jimmy Carter was the president, and when Jimmy Carter was president, he went to New York and seen all the poor people. He's like, the way we was living, like how they living on the Jefferson. That's how we was living on the good times. That's how we was living. We was living in them high-rise apartments and in slums or whatever. So Jimmy Carter put this war on poverty out. Ronald Reagan come in mid-80s. Early 80s. Ronald Reagan come in office. And he goes to the same place and declares a war on drugs. Now, I was reading this article here, just from the crack epidemic. That's what I was reading. And in this crack epidemic, it tells us that in the mid-80s, that the reason the crack spread or blew up because of the media. Nobody really know about crack at first. Then the media came out and said, oh, we have a crack epidemic. So the word crack epidemic came in play before the epidemic actually took place. They caused epidemics, so that by 87, 88, drugs trickled through the neighborhoods, and now the scene of the neighborhood has been affected totally by the drugs coming in. But little do people know is that when you read in the history books, and when you read on the encyclopedia or on the internet, when you read about the crack epidemic, it tells you that the CIA and the president were both aware of the drugs coming in, as well as funded businesses down in Central and South America. But these businesses, like for example, Coca-Cola is a major business here. Well, these businesses that they have down there, they do cocaine. They grow cocaine, they grow opium. This is what they do. So the United States is, funding them their business. Where in the meantime, they bringing in their drugs. All this was in an article on crack epidemic. So really, saying all that, what we learned is it was a conspiracy against the black man to destroy the black man. We found out later, which we're going to read in the class, that in this time currently, right now, 2010, there are I think the number was 6,000. We're going to read it, but I'm going to still pull the number out so you can see it, so you can hear it. The number in 2003, the number of people that were enrolled in college is 4,603. That's in 2003. The people that was locked up in prison, 603. Talking about black people, black men. So what you're saying is 6 to 4 is the ratio. Out of 10, 6 of them gonna be in prison, 4 gonna be going to college. Of the children born, your children, my children. When these children get born, they have a higher chance, according to the numbers, to go to prison than they do to get an education. So that's a conspiracy. It's been plot, planned, and strategized to destroy this black man. But what people don't understand is that this was brought upon ourselves by ourselves. And that's something that we're going to learn today. Is that, these other nations, they plotting and they planning to destroy us, and we're going to look at numbers and figures, and we're going to see how bad it is. But what we're going to learn most, though, is that it's our own fault. So again, the title of today's class, The Rise and the Fall of the Black Man and His Nation. We're going to cover Israel as a nation, and we're going to deal with the individual a little bit, because destruction really falls at your own hands. But we're going to start this off in Proverbs chapter 30, and we're going to start in verse 11. Proverbs chapter 30, verse 11. Blessed to be able to keep the Sabbath. Y'all keep that in mind. Everybody, the whole world, they dealing with the commandments of God today. The world doing all kind of stuff, so we should be honored and blessed to be able to get this word get all these good classes that we got so far. We had a double dosage of the born again class, you know what I mean? So I guess the Lord trying to tell us something. We need to make sure we wash ourselves with that water. And the book tells us when we wash with that water, said we cleaning out our mind, getting that filth, getting all that evil and that malice and all that good stuff that the world infiltrated into our mind. We getting it out because all that come with the conspiracy. You know, it's just like I was having a conversation with another brother, and we was talking about the sin of covenant and how everything, when you walk out the door, you hit the corner, they got billboard up. You know, the world is designed to make you covet. You know, they got commercial on top of commercial, and all they just want you to want. So the world has been set up and designed to be contrary to the Lord. That's why the scriptures tell us that Satan is prince of the power of the air. I mean, he control all this. He control your internet. You know, he control your television. You know, I was in California, and I was walking up La Brea, or riding up La Brea, and I see, this is going up towards Hollywood, and I see a whole bunch of Edomites. We're going to deal with Edom a little bit today as well, because they inside the conspiracy. And, you know, Edom, you know, I'm watching them, they walking up towards Hollywood, and they live on the next street over from La Brea, which is Detroit Street. Of course, I'm going to know that being from Detroit. But, and they got, you know, they got long beards and the little goofy hats. But they run Hollywood. You know, they run Hollywood, they run Interscope and Priority, all your music. So everything that we see on the big screen and everything that we see, you know, here coming through our airways, Edom run that. But when we get into the Bible, they call Edom synagogues of Satan. So with that being said, you basically got Satan running the music industry, the television industry through Esau, through Edom. So anyway, we're going to start this off at Proverbs chapter 30. And we're gonna pick this up at verse 11. Proverbs chapter 30 verse 11. When you get there, you can go ahead and read.
There is a generation that curseth their mother, their father, and doth not bless their mother.
Mm-hmm.
There is a generation that are pure in their own eyes, and yet is not washed from their filthiness.
Now see, we done moved to this generation. We in this generation. We in a generation that curse their father and don't bless their mother. We in a generation that are pure in their own eyes, but they not washed from their filthiness. Go ahead, keep reading.
There's a generation, oh how lofty are their eyes, and their eyelids are lifted up.
Go ahead, verse 13.
There is a generation, oh how lofty are their eyes, and their eyelids are lifted up.
Go ahead.
There is a generation whose teeth are as swords, and their jaw teeth as knives, to devour the poor from off the earth and the needy from among the men.
So now, you know, in looking back and discussing, you know, what was the fall of the black man, you know, and in our conversation, and it's funny because when you look at the article that I actually have in here, it's something I pulled off of Wikipedia. They tell you in this article that really the fall of this nation, or of the black man, was the drugs coming into the neighborhood. They actually tell you that. Now, I didn't think that was going to be the answer. You know, like, I didn't think I was going to find that somewhere. But they have showed us through documentation. There's some things we're going to read. Because we're going to read where the drugs came into the neighborhood, and then we're going to see where the prison rate jumped, like over 100%. Went from 500,000 to, as you know, went to a million, 1.5 million people, you know. When drugs hit, when Bill Clinton got in office, you know, after the drugs had planted themselves within a 10-year span, next thing you know, they put these drugs in here, and the neighborhood just done went crazy off of this. You know, we got way more murders now, thefts, you know, all the evils that's done under the sun. But this was a conspiracy. So now the generation that we got now, you know, they toting guns, and like I say here, this is a generation that curse their father and don't bless their mother. It's a generation that's pure in their own eyes, but not washed from their filth. And it's like when you cut that TV on. You know, you looking at BET or whatever program, and everything seems like it's okay. We pure in our own eyes, because the reality is not okay. The reality is the stuff we look at on a daily basis. It be wicked. Let's go over to Psalm chapter 83. So we're going to look at this conspiracy a little more. How this generation got to where it is. Psalms chapter 83. We're going to pick it up in verse 1. Because, see, we got to put this on record. And a lot of times the way, we teach is that we put the facts out there and then we build from the facts. We make our assumptions and our proof come from the facts. So I'm saying this conspiracy, we got to read it, because not only are we going to see it's conspiracy, but we learn who some of the players are. And we find these players throughout history. But go ahead and pick it up in verse 1.
Psalms 83. Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace. Be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden.
All right, that's good. So we see here, it said that a counsel has been taken against the Lord's people and against his hidden ones. All right. Now, the question is, who are his people? See, sometimes people are going to try to say, oh, well, the so-called Jew that they done took counsel against, they sitting over there in Israel right now. That's not true, though. We're going to learn as we read this Bible that the so-called Jew is the black man. This is the one who has who crafty counsel has been taken against, and his hidden ones have been plotted and strategized against. Let's go to Genesis 25, and we're going to introduce the black man. We're going to find the start of the black man, and we're going to walk him from his start to his rise, to his fall, and we're going to actually see him rise up again in the end. So we're going to look at Genesis chapter 25, verse 21 through 34, and we're looking at the origin of the black man. And we could start with, Noah, of course, and go with Ham and Japheth and Shem. But really, though, all black people, all black people don't come from Ham. All black people don't come from Shem. Now all people that was, all the children of Israel is black. That's who the Bible calls. But not all black people are the children of Israel. So the children of Ham, the Egyptians, they children of Ham, they black people. The children of Israel, we find out, as we're going to read a little bit in this class, they go down into Egypt. So if they didn't sleep with them, which I'm sure they probably mixed and mingled a little bit, but we're going to read about that. But even if they did, the people of that region was confused on who was who anyway. They was just calling them all Egyptians, because they all just looked like. So at any rate, we're going to go ahead and do Genesis 25, starting verse 21.
And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife, because she was barren, and the Lord was entreated of him. And Rebekah, his wife, conceived. So
from Abraham, we get Isaac. And Isaac, his wife wasn't having no kids. So, he goes to the Lord, and let's see what happened. Go ahead.
And the children struggled together within her. And she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb.
So now this woman is holding in her stomach 2 nations. That's why when we deal with this class, it's called the rise and fall of the black man and his nation. 2 nations was in this woman's womb. Go ahead.
And 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other, and the elder shall serve the younger.
Now this the Lord, and he done put it out there, that the elder is going to serve the younger out of these 2 nations that we got existing. And when you look at the world today, you got Gentile, sons of Japheth, that's the white man. You got one of Abraham's sons, the Arab, that's Ishmael's son. That's the Abraham, as we call him. Then you got the black man, which is the son of Jacob, which we're going to clarify some more, or the son of Israel. And then you got Esau. Now Esau, who this other nation is, he actually is the so-called Jew. Because we're going to learn today that he came in backdoored Israel when they got thrown out their land. But at the same time, if you pay attention, these are the only players that ever matter in history. You don't deal, it's not like you dealing with all Abraham kids. You dealing with 3 Abraham kids. You dealing with Shem, you dealing with Isaac, Ishmael, Esau, and Jacob. Them are all the kids you got. Ishmael over there in the Middle East, and they caused hell over there. And right there, they battling with Esau. They sitting right there in the midst. They're battling with Esau. You know what I mean? These two people sitting over here fighting over land that ain't even there. We'll deal with that a little bit too, because that promise didn't come to them. But at any rate, so he said 2 nations was going to be in the womb. All right, keep reading.
Verse 24. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red, all over like an hairy garment. And they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel. And his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when he bare them.
So we see who gonna serve the other. Esau is gonna serve Jacob. This is what we read, because it said that the elder was gonna serve the young. All right, keep reading.
27. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man, dwelling in tents. And Isaac loved Esau, because he did eat of his venison. But Rebekah loved Jacob, and Jacob sawed pottage. And Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, Feed me, I pray thee, with the same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. And Jacob said, Sell me this day thy birthright. And Esau said, Behold, I am at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do to me?
All right, so now what we seeing here is after we learned about the prophecy, you know, it was a birthright that the elder son was supposed to get. Now, you know, the Lord had already prophesied that the younger was going to be over the elder. So now we looking at the stage in life where the transition take place, where Esau sold what was his to his brother for a little bit of food, right? Skip on over to chapter 27. We're going to read verse 28 and 29 here.
Okay. Therefore, God, give thee of the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth.
So now, later on, after that little scene took place with Esau and Jacob, so now we got Jacob, and Jacob is really about to get his blessing from his father, but it's because of the Lord, not because of Isaac. Because Isaac is prepared to bless Esau. Esau not coming to tell Esau not coming to tell his daddy Isaac, oh yeah, by the way, I sold my birthright, and I'm not supposed to really get this blessing. You understand? That's what he's supposed to do. So now the whole world done put out there, and part of this conspiracy that we read about in Psalms 83. The whole world done put out there, oh yeah, Jacob done stole the birthright. Nah, he didn't steal the birthright. That's not what happened. The birthright was sold to him. The blessing was owed to him. And it came from the father to start with. God said this to begin with, that the younger was going to be over the elders. So at any rate, go ahead, Genesis 27, verse 28 and 29 again.
Therefore God give thee of the dew of heaven, and the fatness of the earth, and plenty of corn and wine. Let people serve thee, and nations bow down to thee.
So now he's saying, look, talking to Jacob, people going to serve you, nations is going to bow down to you. So he basically telling, I'm going to make you great. I'm going to make you nations going. This one man, he telling them nations going to bow down to him. Go ahead, keep reading.
Be Lord over thy brethren, and let thy mother's son come down to curse thee. Cursed be everyone that curseth thee, and blessed be everyone that blesseth thee.
So he told him that he said, let thy mother's son bow down to him. And anybody who cursed Jacob, they was going to get cursed. And if you blessed them, you was going to get a blessing. And this took place when you start reading Deuteronomy, you'll see some of that. You'll see Baal. That's who tried to curse him. And he couldn't curse him. The Lord stopped him from cursing. I think he had a talking ass, didn't he? Yeah, he had a talking ass on him. Let's go over to Exodus chapter 1. Because now we see Jacob receive this blessing. But what we got to find out, or what we got to put a finger on next is, all right, so how do we get the black man in all this? You know, we went all the way back to just Jacob. How do we find that the black man, where's his rise? Well, I'm going to tell you, his rise was when Jacob was blessed. He said all nations was going to be blessed. You was going to serve you. So that was really his rise. And we're going to learn, we're going to see that a little bit. We're going to start at Exodus chapter 1, and we're going to pick this up at verse 8. Verse 1 through 8.
Now these are the names of the children of Israel, which came into Egypt, every man in his household with Jacob. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan, and Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. And all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls.
Okay, so now we see that Jacob had 12 sons. You know, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher. All these were the sons, and Joseph was the sons of Jacob. All right, and now they go down into Israel 70 deep. Go ahead, keep reading.
For Joseph was in Egypt already. And Joseph died, and all his brethren, and all that generation. And the children of Israel were fruitful.
Now Israel and Jacob is the same person. That's the same name. You know, it's not the same name. It was changed. His name was changed by the Lord when him and the angel got into a little tussle. Ask me how angels and men tussle, but they got into a little tussle. That's why Jacob had to walk the rest of his days with a limp. But he said, and the children of Israel, or the children of Jacob, were fruitful and increased abundantly, and multiplied and waxed exceedingly and mighty, and the land was filled with them. So they don't, you know how they say we baby kids, we don't die, we multiply. Well, it's a famine out, and these folks are steady having babies. Even to this day, I was looking at the pregnancy rate. And yeah, you know, it's true that the black American, you know, we killing our kids more than anybody else. You know, it's like 2, you know what I'm saying, 2.1% or something, you know, something down there. But there are other people be like 0.9%. You know, the Mexican, they kind of up there with us too. But should we still having more babies? Like when you look at how many babies we have, we outnumbering like the Gentile in America, like we double timing on him. So you know, it's still the same thing. We still just steady having kids, man. Like that's what we do. You know what I mean? Because the Lord even told us He was gonna make us a great nation when He was talking to Abraham, and you wasn't gonna be able to count us. That's why I don't never be believing these census. You know, they be trying to take account on how many people it is. I know you wrong because I wouldn't even let you in my house. And they kept trying to come to my house. They kept knocking on the door, knocking. No, you ain't gonna count us. Because the book said don't count children in Israel anyway. Quiet as kept. But David got in trouble for that. But at any rate, the children of Israel, they go down in here and they grow. And they become a pretty large sized nation. What verse are we at, bro?
8. Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph.
So now, Joseph, you know, he was like second in charge down there in Egypt. But here come a new king. This king don't really know Joseph. You know what I'm saying? So he gonna do something that, you know, was unheard of for this family. Go to verse 13.
And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor.
Mm-hmm.
And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage, in mortar and in brick, and in all manner of service in the field. All their service, wherein they made them serve, was with rigor.
So now this is where the Hebrew slaves come from. The Hebrew slaves started from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob had 12 sons. He take his 12 sons down into the land of Egypt, which wasn't that far from where he stayed to start with. When he gets down into Egypt, they grow. One of Jacob's sons, Joseph, the dreamer, as most of the kids know him by, one of his sons rose up, and he basically was like the vice president of Egypt. Egypt is like grander than America, bigger than it's a larger scale than America to what people was then. Egypt was the power. So you second in charge in Egypt. So you get your family down in here. You bring all your family down to Egypt. And y'all survive because it's a famine that's coming through the land. People ain't going to eat. They're going to starve. Joseph saved everybody. Now you got this new king. When y'all went from 70 to 140 to 490, you know, the number we just kept multiplying. Now you got this new king. He don't even know Joseph. All that stuff, maybe they didn't write it in history books. Maybe he didn't read. But he didn't know nothing about going down here and what Joseph did. So he take the rest of the children that belong to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. Then you got Judah, Levi, Simeon, all these Jacob kids. He take their kids and put them in slavery. All right. Go ahead. Verse, what we at, 15? All right, go ahead.
And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of the one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Puah. And he said, when ye do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live.
So they at birth trying to kill these little boys. So they trying to wipe out this nation. That's how you wipe out a nation. That's why when we run through the stats, when you look at the women in prison, the ratio is pretty constant. You know, it's more whites in America, so it's more white women in prison. And then it's blacks and Mexicans. They about neck and neck because we about even in America. But when you look at the black man, there's so many more white men in America, but there's so many more black men in prison. See, that's the way they wipe out a nation. They take away the man, because the man carried the seed. You what your father are. That's what you are. You know, your mother, like my daddy just say, she the incubator. She just holds you down. But you what your daddy is. That's all that matters. So with that being said, they finna wipe out the black man. This is what they conspiracy is. But this go all the way back to Egypt. In the days of Egypt, you see how they was acting to the midwives. Go kill the boys. We the women though. We'll take the women. We'll sleep with the women. You know, we could sleep with the women, have Egyptian babies. But they not gonna be Israelite babies. You know, y'all can believe that old wives tell you want to, that if you got some black in you, you black. That's not really true. If you got some black in you, if your mama's dark, then that just means your skin gonna be dark. But you what your father is. That's the bottom line. So if your daddy was a white man, you're a white man. Now you might go down here for political reasons and check off, you know, black. You know, you might get slick and check off other if you feel like you mixed up like that, and you know what I'm saying. But you what your dad is. Period, point blank. You know, you can go to science and check genetics out on that. All right. So at any rate, they trying to kill off the black man, or they trying to kill off the Hebrew kids, and the midwives. They like, nah, we ain't having that. These women here they ain't giving up their babies, and we don't. You know, really, we ain't trying to give up our babies. The ones who keep them from aborting. But go ahead, keep reading.
Verse 17. But the midwives feared God and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men, children alive.
So this is what we would call the first war on the black man. Because when I look at that war on drugs that Ronald Reagan came up with in the 1980s, that was a war on black men. Because it ain't number of brothers. When you look at the prison rate, 60% of the inmates are in there on drug charges. 60%. Now that's a whole bunch of crimes. You got murder, you got rape, you got, you know, burglaries, you got, you know, embezzling stuff, you know, child molestation. There's some gang of crimes out there. I mean, just buku. But 60% of the people locked up is locked up on drug charges. Ronald Reagan started a war on drugs. Well, you might as well just say a war on the black man. But the first time we see that the black man was you know, trying to be wiped out, it go all the way back to their first captain. And that's what we gonna find, is that these kings of these planets, they be looking at us and they be like, man, y'all getting too much. You know, y'all already can beat us in basketball and outrun us. You know what I mean? Like, we can't really let you get in there too much more. So they try to wipe us out. So they put things out here, drugs and abortion clinics, and then, you know, I ain't known a black man who had a gun factory. You know about a black man? Smith & Wesson ain't black, y'all. You understand what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is they give us guns, they give us this stuff. And then they program our minds to say, all right, this your generation, you know, you gotta be a thug. You know, that's the word they gonna say, you gotta be, which we gonna, by the way, we're gonna look up the definition of a thug before we done. That's what it was preached to me, that I was supposed to be a thug and a gangster. And when you find out what these things is, not only they contrary to God, but they just contrary to the society. You don't want to be that. I understand people try to put their own lingo and feel on what it is, but the fact remains, words is words. When we look them up, this is what they mean. But we'll get to that part a little later. So at any rate, let's keep moving from here. Let's verse 18.
And the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said unto them, why have ye done this thing, and have saved the men and children alive? And the midwives said unto Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, for they are lively, and are delivered ere the midwives come in unto them.
Basically saying, look here, these women so slick, they just popping babies out, they don't even need us. You know, they ain't like the Egyptian women. See, the Egyptian women acting like prima donna. They waiting on the midwives to come in there. And the Israelite women like, look here, I'll pop the baby out without this nurse. You know what I'm saying? Let's get to it. You know, so they're like, and with that being said, the women lively. Like, they ain't trying to, we can't get hold of they women. Now, you know, really that could be true too, but we midwives ain't finna kill these boys. Like, we ain't finna kill off this nation. That's what that's all about. We not gonna kill off this nation, ain't never gonna go nowhere. The black man will be here to the end of time because Jesus a black man. That's how I know that. But where we at?
verse 20.
That's good. Let's go over to no, keep reading. Read down to 22.
Therefore God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and waxed very mighty. And it came to pass, because the midwives feared God, that he made them houses. And Pharaoh charged all the people, saying, every son that is born ye shall cast into the river, and every daughter ye shall save alive.
And they go again. It's part of that conspiracy. They're going to keep the woman alive. You know, it's just like, nah. You know, two things got freed from the 1800s in America. Black people and women. See, people didn't realize women were slaves, but they ain't had no rights. They couldn't do nothing. They had to serve their husbands. And that's really it. And serve whoever they was going to, you know, go whoever house they was going to go and clean for. Women couldn't get no jobs back in the day. In America now. So two people got freed in America. Black man and a woman. But check this out. They done took the woman and now they done gave us our freedom first. They gave the black man freedom in the 1800s. They gave the woman her freedom in the 1900s. But now, in the 2000s, the women make more money than the men. The women get more degrees. The whole system is designed so that the woman is power over the black man. Not with the white people. You know, you go down to Harvard or Yale, one of these good schools, don't think you're going to see way more white women than white men. That ain't what you're going to see. But now if you go to one of our black good schools, like let's say you go down to, you know, maybe the AU Center, or maybe if you go to, I didn't even hear you. Oh yeah, like when you go down to the AU Center with Morehouse and Spelman, or if you go, you know, some of these good black colleges, we Grambling and all that, man, them women be dominating 8-1 over us. You know, because that's how the system is set up. They are trying to deliberately hold us brothers back. So it is imperative that we get on this. Only one thing out here that can get you some freedom. That's education. It's the only thing you can get that's going to get you some freedom. Is to educate your mind. Because with an education, you can get a little money. With a little money, you have a little more liberty. So go outside and be broke and run the stop sign and see what happens. And run outside and have a pocket full of money and run a stop sign and see what happens. You ain't gonna go to jail if you got some cash in your pocket. You got no cash in your pocket, you go to jail. And that's one of the places. This is one we're gonna find out today. 10% of black men is in jail. This is one out of 10. This is one of the places they want us. You know what I'm saying? They want us to be gay and they want us to be in jail. And that's where they got us. So at any rate, where we at? Exodus chapter 19 now. Exodus chapter 19. Exodus chapter 19. We're going to read a little bit out of here. When you get there, we're going to start at verse 1.
In the 3rd month, when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Egypt, the same day came they into the wilderness of Sinai.
Alright, so the children of Israel, they were down in Egypt. And, you know, they grew and became a big nation. And not only did they become a big nation, but the Lord had to come free them. And he did. Everybody know about the 10 Commandments. They come on every Easter time, is it? 10 Commandments come on pretty much every Easter time. You know, when the world put on Easter, they put on Jesus, and they put on the 10 Commandments. So everybody know pretty much the story. And that's from God. Not the director of the movie, but the fact that everybody know the children